So sometimes you're going to notice when there is a wobble in the orbit, whether it's the team's orbit, the project orbit, maybe even your own orbit. You're going to be developing your intuition enough that you will notice when there's a wobble somewhere. Hi, I'm Fran Gallagher, and this is Intuition for Leaders. So, the first story I want to tell you is about a spiritual teacher who was leading a meditation that I was participating in with a group. It was a group of about 8 people. And we were meditating, and all of a sudden, it was as if the leader had fallen overboard. It felt like the person fell really far. It felt like we were suddenly in a boat in deep water. The leader fell overboard, and it was an endless fall, an endless depth. And it was freaky because this leader had led us into a meditation, and that's not a good place to just leave people. So the leader actually was able to wrap up the meditation and get us all back on shore, so to speak. And later I said, I felt as if you fell overboard. And the leader said, well, I feel like I need to acknowledge what you're telling me because you were accurate. The person said that they had taken a medication at the beginning of the evening, and they suddenly had a reaction, and they just lost the ability to keep track of what was going on. And I loved that they gave me that feedback. Later, for a period of time when I used to give classes, I would feel that same feeling of being on a boat and I would know when somebody signed up for the class because I would feel the boat, or maybe it felt like a raft, that it would go a little deeper in the water. And as each person signed up for the class, I would feel it go deeper. Now I don't have that much of an awareness to that extent where I can feel if people sign up. I do feel it if somebody is considering rescheduling, and not always, but I want to tell you those examples so that you can start to feel whatever is going on with your team or your project. One time, a CEO brought me out to be present for a team meeting. And afterward, he just wanted me to observe. And afterward, we were driving away because we were going to another location. And he said, what did you think? And I said, so and so, we'll call so and so Bruce. I said, Bruce is your biggest asset, but also your biggest liability. He is obsessed with loyalty. Well, this CEO almost drove off the road. He said, how did you know that? How did you know that? Well, I used both my intuition and my knowledge of the Enneagram. And that's why I sometimes will teach the Enneagram, because the two together are just so powerful, using both intuition and knowledge of the different personality types. And what's so wonderful about the Enneagram is that it explores motivation in the different Enneatypes, and there is movement. It's not like a bunch of boxes like some personality typing systems. It describes movement in function and movement in dysfunction, and it describes the influence of other shadings of any types of personality types. So using it can cause me anyway, and those I've taught this to have a really quick understanding of people. And of course, we've got to get to know people. And of course, there are nuances, and we all need to be respected for who we are. But we can get a feel for someone fairly quickly. In that case, I could see that the person was an Enneatype that was very focused on loyalty. And I could see that this team member was had moved into, for this Enneatype, a very anxious state, to the point where they were watching with too much fascination, and even to the point of seeming paranoia, watching everyone's moves, hanging on everyone's words, debating subtle meanings in a very argumentative and aggressive way. So that's why I knew that about this person. And I thought there was great intelligence there. But I want you to start to notice in your world, in your team, in your projects, when it feels as if somebody's not quite on the boat, or if there is some kind of a wobble in the orbit of a project. I can also feel, and I want you to start to notice when you feel as if there's a lot of will pushing forward on something, but maybe not a lot of support behind it, not a lot of resolve behind it. What we want for ourselves, what we want for our projects, what we want for our teams is both that feeling of initiative, the initiating a project, but also the feeling that there's going to be some solid follow through and solid support for the project. One time I worked for a company where we did various proposals, and someone announced that they were going to respond to a particular request for a proposal, therefore creating a proposal. And there was a really big feeling of, this person was going to buck the system, and they were suddenly creating a team, and they were going to respond to an RFP, a request for proposal. They were going to be maybe a maverick and make it happen. And it had such a feeling of lots of energy used to initiate this project, and there was no feeling of sustained effort, no feeling of consistency, no feeling of support or follow through. So because I got that feeling, I knew it was never going to happen. And in fact, it never happened. So I want you to be on the alert for this. What do situations and people and teams, what do projects, what do they all feel like for you? And then it's time to create a feedback loop. So what a feedback loop is, and you can even write down your impressions, but the feeling of what does it feel like at the onset? And then what does it feel like as it goes forward? And then what is the outcome? Track the entire cycle, and then when you feel the outcome, you see it for whatever it is, you feel it, then you will know how you felt, what you felt, and how that corresponds to what happened. And you do that over and over again until you start to get a feel and make it more conscious, because you already have this. If you're in leadership, any role where you ever initiate anything, where you ever hold down the fort, whether at home or at work, is leadership. And as you have gone on about your business, you will have been gathering this information. I'm just suggesting that you become really conscious of it. And I'm talking about labeling things so that you know what's going on. It's not below the surface where you can't necessarily get a hold of it. I want you to be able to get a hold of it So you can track it, track the results, track the feelings, the sense, whatever visions you get, whatever guidance you might receive, insights you might receive, and then notice how it all works out. Take notes. You are developing, and you're developing your intuition and your leadership skills. You got this. Thanks for joining me. Subscribe, please, and press the bell to be notified. Bye bye.